are you making any inroads in the United States? And I'm curious your thoughts on some of this legislation that's coming out of the United States to restrict internet ability.
Right, I'm very concerned about that. I mean, there are. The thing is here that what the internet has changed, and I'm going philosophical for 30 seconds here, is that it's given everybody a voice. And just like when the Catholic Church tried to attack the printing press in the Middle Ages, they did that up to and including the death penalty for unauthorized copying. There's been this privileged elite in society that has held the privilege of interpreting truth and telling people what the truth is. That privilege has been broken by the internet, so very, very strong economic interests are now trying to curtail the net and prevent essentially losing this privilege. So I'm very concerned when you see like American politicians talking about instituting censorship. That's frankly not the America I grew up with. And I'm talking about the Stop Online Piracy Act, I'm talking about the Protect IP Act, and all of this. I mean, America, for me, has always had freedom of speech as its flagship, and all of a sudden I'm seeing how the net is threatening economic interests, and all of a sudden these liberties weren't worth the ink they were printed on.
And are there movements like the SOPA in the United States? Are there movements like that going on in Europe?
There have been attempts in the European Parliament to put similar things. And I've got to say, I'm quite proud that our presence in the European Parliament stopped exactly that happening in Europe. There was something called a telecoms package, which would enable people to be cut off from the internet.
Right.
And our specific presence in the European Parliament made sure that that didn't happen.
The pirate party's presence.
Yes,
it's remarkable. And are those interests funded by the big entertainment corporations?
Yes, they are. It's the copyright lobby, which has lost a very lucrative distribution monopoly, seeing that it doesn't cost anything to distribute the digital information anymore. So essentially, since it doesn't cost anything, in a functioning market, you can't charge for it. But since these large corporations have a monopoly on distribution, they're trying to clamp down on the liberties that enable us to distribute digital information at no cost, because it threatens their entire business model. But my point is that if civil liberties are at odds with your business model, it's your business model that has to change.
Yeah.
No entrepreneur on the planet has the right to say that I can't sustain my business in the face of sustained civil liberties.
Yeah, very, very well said. Rick Falkvinge, say it please.
Falkvinge. It means wing of a falcon in Swedish. You can see
that's marvelous. Falkvinge, the founder and political evangelist for the Pirate Party of Sweden. We'll be back in just a moment with a little bit more. Stick around. I should probably have that camera over here, but it's too... Jacob, feel free in my ear to point out to me when I've got the wrong camera on or anything. Just talk to me if you can. Welcome back, Thom Hartmann here with you, and another Swedish band as a bumper. Jacob is so good at picking out our music. Rick, the Wing of the Falcon, Falkvinge.
That's it.
Is our guest here. He's the political evangelist with the Pirate Party in Sweden, and one of the other, in America, when people think of Sweden, they number one, you guys nationalized your banks back in the 90s because your banks crashed the way ours did.
Right.
And you just said, okay, that's it. Screw the bankers. Threw them out. They lost all their money. The country nationalized them, and then they slowly sold them back into the private marketplace at a profit, I guess. And why haven't we learned from that? I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Right. Iceland did the same thing. They allowed the banks to fail. I mean, if you're investing money and the government, essentially the taxpayers, guarantee that you're not taking any risk, there's no incentive whatsoever to not go out and take all the risks you can.
Right. So the banks in Sweden now are in a position where if they make insane loans like the privatized banks did in Iceland, like the private banks in the United States did and in the UK, if they play games, they're actually going to have to pay the price, the circumstances?
Right. I mean, there was this huge crisis in the 90s, like you say. Banks essentially went belly up, and the government didn't bail them out, but they bought
They nationalized.
They bought the foreclosure, essentially.
Yeah.
So after that, like you say, it's been gradually reprivatized. It's been gradually getting back into the game, but I think everybody remembers that if you're taking risks, you got to know what you're playing with.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that when Americans think of Sweden, other than strong social safety net, democratic socialist society, is Julian Assange. Is this whole kerfuffle around WikiLeaks and
Right.
Julian Assange and whatnot. And I realize that you can't talk much about that, but I'd like you to explain why.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, Julian Assange was in Sweden this last fall, and he's got a bit known for that. But he was also here to sign a deal with the Pirate Party, which was widely publicized, where we offered him server space pro bono to run WikiLeaks and protect it. And what we got out of that was that if anybody would attack WikiLeaks, they'd have to attack the Pirate Party first and get a subpoena against us, and that would be really yummy in an election campaign trying to attack the contender party. But I can't speculate on the legal case against Julian Assange personally, especially not in media. And the reason for that is I was so close to these events that happened that if it goes to trial, I'm going to be a key defense witness. So therefore, I can't speculate on the merits of the case in media because it would burn my testimony.
Yeah. Well, I'm not asking you to. I am curious though. And when we were in Iceland, we spoke with a member of parliament whose Twitter account was hacked by the U.S. State Department.
Right.
And worldwide famous now, the situation. And she has introduced into the Icelandic legislature a 10-step program that basically guarantees internet privacy and keeps the government out, not just the government of Iceland, but any government if it's the .is domain. And she thinks that can hold. Is there, how is that? And much of that is coming out of what happened with Assange and WikiLeaks. I mean, that was kind of the match that lit the Kindle, even though their kindling, even though for some time the kindling was accumulating in the form of the internet and information. How is that situation in Sweden?
Well, this is pirate policy. It's privacy, accountability, transparency, and civil liberties.
So I'm talking about your party here.
Right. So the problem, as is everywhere else, is that politicians aren't necessarily malicious, but they don't understand information policy. Mm-hmm. And it's worse than that. They get their emails printed for them by a secretary, and they think that they therefore understand what the net is about. Mm. But people who live their lives online have a completely different perception, of course. And if you go to a 60-year-old legislator and make them understand that the law they're making would be the equivalent of putting microphones under every cafe table when they were young, they would be absolutely horrified out of their minds. But they don't realize that. They're thinking it's just some sort of way to curtail the illegal sharing of music online. It's much more than that. So
how do we get them to realize that?
Well, when I founded the Pirate Party, I realized that you can't really ask somebody to take 3 weeks off of that job and just understand a new perspective. You got to make it personal for them. And at the end of the day, what politicians care about is getting reelected. Mm-hmm. So after 3 years, we had to stop talking to the politicians and bypass them, talk directly to the voters, challenge the politicians on election day, and that changed the narrative.
That's interesting. And so the narrative here in Sweden has changed. The people in Sweden.
It has, absolutely. No, we didn't get in the last national election, like I say. That's kind of a complex election, so we need more. We need a broader platform. We're getting there. But we did get into the European elections, and that changed the story entirely.
That's and you're a member of you have 2 seats in the European Parliament.
We do.
What in
2 out of Sweden
in the 30 or 40 seconds we have left? What kind of power does that give you? What's the value of that?
Well, we did prevent the entertainment industry's attempt to shut people off the net without a trial. That's not going to happen. They'd attempt to shut people off by the tens of thousands without trial. That didn't happen because of us. We have gotten the Green Group, which is the third largest group in the European Parliament, I believe, third or fourth, to adopt our policies right off the blueprint.
That's great.
So we've gone from...
Is there a Green Party? Is there a pirate party in the United States of any consequence?
There are, in some states. They are forming. I mean, it's uphill because of the political system in the United States, but they're forming.
Yeah, remarkable. Okay, we're whoops, I'm sorry, wrong camera. Rick Falkvinge, the political evangelist and founder and political evangelist for the Pirate Party of Sweden and of the European Parliament.
Thank you, Thom. I really enjoyed being on the show.
Pleasure having you with us, Rick. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back from Sweden. Let's pick up your calls and get back into American politics here for a little bit on the Thom Hartmann program. 866-987-THA. Okay. Thanks. You, Rick. Brilliant.
Thank you, Thom. I really enjoyed it.
Good job.
Anything I couldn't done better, that you didn't?
That was great. It's just the one thing I noticed is that we need to make sure everybody is the same distance to the mic. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm leaning back and forth.
So I'm just going to move it back for this person.
Okay. Fair enough.
But thank you. I mean, everything else was great, and in fact, Jacob in Washington D.C. I'm sure was just riding the volume control, so it didn't.
Okay. Cool.
It came out just fine, and their content is brilliant.
Thank you. Are you going to stay in Stockholm for long?
No, we're leaving tomorrow morning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually, day after tomorrow morning. I have to speak at a conference here tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Is it okay if I also take pictures?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can do anything you
want.
want.
Where in the States are you based?
D.C.
D.C. So...
Did you ever get to D.C.? I did not take the card.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, here it is. It's right here.
I was in D.C. for an award gala recently when I was awarded.
Oh, we do a TV show there in addition to this radio show.
Oh, really?
So the next time you come, we'll have to
Yeah, you're every day. Could I get a picture of you too?
Of course.
Certainly. You want to sit down? Because if I stand up, I'm going to pull wires.
I know, so I want to know if you want to move your mic, that's
I can't. I'm afraid to touch anything with all these wires.
Because you turn your head like this towards the...
Okay, so I'm going to lean slightly more towards Thom here.
Okay.
Ja, jag fortsätter.
Du skulle tagit när de pratade. Då såg de mer naturliga ut.
Oh, no, it's fine. It doesn't bother me at all.
No, okay.
Okay, you're good?
Det här lägger ut på nätet när du börjar snacka. Det var ju jävligt bra.
I'm not easily distracted. The biggest problem is just that these microphones are very sensitive, so any noise in here goes out over the
They're about 20 centimeters, and they have...
They are fairly directional, yeah, but I'm still, even here, I'm hearing myself in the microphone.
You don't think but I know you will go away.
Directional is good. Okay.
A bit.
Okay, a bit. In the U.S., we use these dynamic microphones where you literally have to be within 4 inches of them within a 4-inch circle, or it just hears nothing.
Okay.
And the whole room is silent. You know, you could have a circus going on in the room, and people would hear nothing.
Just you.
Just the cat.
And that costs a lot.
Yeah, they do.
We
Actually,
can
a couple
actually
$100.
talk softly around Thom and
yeah,
come into the studio.
I've got 4 people around me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not easily distracted.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay. So, how much time is left? You
We have a
4 more minutes.
6-minute break at the bottom of the hour.
Tired of your dentures, or do you know you need dentures?